The Souls series, a gaming franchise that has become synonymous with high difficulty and crazy convoluted lore. Having played through these games, I oftentimes come across a boss who I literally have zero clue who they are and how strong they're supposed to be within the lore of the story. At this point, FromSoft Games have made more than half a dozen Souls-like games, all of which have been unique deviations of the formula and identity that they really began to hone with Demon Souls back in 2009. So today, as someone who can't stop power scaling, we'll be answering that question that I asked myself in the past and be comparing the main playable characters from each of what I consider to be the main FromSoft Souls-like games: Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, Sekiro, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring. This will be a ranking of the weakest in 7th place all the way down to the strongest in 1st place. Comment down below who you think will end up the strongest Souls protagonist, and let's jump right in. Coming in at number 7 is Wolf from Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. I would love to put Sekiro higher, as personally this is actually my favorite of all the Souls games, but when it comes to the power of the characters within the lore, there simply isn't anything there in comparison to all the other games. This is likely due to Sekiro's nature as a very extreme historical fan fiction rather than a game set in a complete fantasy world, even though there are things like demons and zombies and some kinds of magic. Either way, this doesn't make Sekiro some sort of pushover though. His best attack potency and speed feats come from his battle with the Divine Dragon. During this battle, he is able to completely block and parry the attacks of the Divine Dragon, whose sword swings are packing town levels of power. In this same fight, and in several other places during the game, Sekiro is able to catch and redirect lightning bolts with his sword, putting his speed at massively hypersonic. As for Hack's abilities, while Sekiro has his shinobi arts and unique prosthetic tool abilities, he generally lacks in pure potential versatility compared to pretty much all the other protagonists, besides maybe the character in the 6th spot. He also does have the Mortal Blade, which is stated to kill those who can't die, which potentially could work on all the other immortal protagonists going forward, but due to being so much less powerful than them, it's unlikely he would ever be able to use it. Number 6. Slayer of Demons. It's fitting that of all the Western fantasy-inspired Souls games, it's kind of perfect that the original one is coming up last. Still though, this game has an immediate and massive jump in power compared to Sekiro that makes Sekiro's capacity to sever immortality essentially useless. Now, the lore and cosmology of Demon Souls is the one that I'm probably the least familiar with, so I am not 100% confident in this scaling compared to the others. But one of the most important characters in the world of Demon Souls is known as the Monumental. They are a being who's essentially holding the entire fabric of the world together in Demon Souls, and they also explain that half of the world has actually been essentially turned into an empty void of fog. Either way, the Slayer of Demons, if they choose the good ending of the game, replaces the Monumental at the end of the game and is directly stated to be holding the fabric of the world together in the Monumental's place. To maintain a planet's gravitational binding energy from breaking it apart, it would require small planet to planet levels of power to do this. Unfortunately for the Slayer of Demons, their speed feats are quite lacking. The best thing they have is being able to dodge arrows, which is supersonic. Being much slower than Sekiro but being astronomically more powerful, I'm giving it to the Slayer of Demons. Number 5, the Hunter. At this point, the feats and level of strength from the characters in these games becomes a lot more obvious and a lot more over the top. Bloodborne is all about fighting increasingly more terrifying cosmic horrors, with an emphasis on cosmic. Multiple times throughout the games, the gods and beings that the Hunter is capable of slaying have the ability to move the moon across the sky with ease. The most obvious and lore-wise consistent time this happens is when the Hunter fights and defeats the aptly named Moon Presence, who moved along with the moon a massive distance across the night sky. While yes, a moon is not a planet, to move it as far and fast as it did requires large planet levels of power and massively hypersonic speeds to do so. Once again, a single boss establishing both the strength and speed tier of the verse. As far as abilities, the Hunter naturally has all kinds of elemental manipulation as well as a wide array of weapons at their disposal, but they may also just have all sorts of reality warping once they become a Great Old One, though the exact abilities at their disposal is pretty unclear. However, what is clear is that they are blitzing and overpowering the Slayer of Demons. Number 4 and number 3, the Bearer of the Curse and the Chosen Undead. The protagonist of the first and second Dark Souls games go here. For both of them, their scaling is essentially exactly the same and are based off of the exact same feats, which is maintaining the first flame. I'm going to give an edge to the Chosen Undead from an inverse perspective, as they do beat Gwyn, who is kind of hyped up in the lore as being the most Chad lore of Cinder, but either way, maintaining this flame with their soul keeps the sun burning in the sky, as when the flame begins to die out, so does the star. This puts them both at star level, giving the slight edge to the Chosen Undead for the reason I just mentioned. As for speed arguments, there are a handful of lightning attacks across these games, like from the Looking Glass Knight in Dark Souls 2, so if you want to say they're massively hypersonic for being able to dodge them, go for it. But again, they are so massively above the spots below them that they can be slower and still probably win with ease. Number 2, the Ashen One. Of course, following those two is the Ashen One, who defeats the Soul of Cinder and is essentially the combined soul of every single Ashen Lord who has come before, which would include the previous two protagonists. We don't know how many previous Ashen Lords there are, but this would still put the Ashen One far above any of the other Dark Souls protagonists directly. But we don't exactly know if this would make them large star level or solar system level or beyond. For speed, this would also just naturally scale above the previous protagonists to an unknown but certainly and likely massive amount. Number 1, the Tarnished. This one probably was pretty obvious at this point, but the latest Souls-like entry that was bigger than ever before also made the protagonist and those they battled more powerful than ever. Across the story, multiple characters like Radahn are described as affecting and stopping the movement of entire stars and constellations, which is both massively faster than light and multi-solar system level in power. This becomes even more clear as by the final battle with the Elden Beast seems to create an entire night sky of stars and nebulas within its own dimension, putting it anywhere from high multi-solar system to galaxy levels of power. In a way, this progression of power between the games makes sense, ignoring Sekiro and Bloodborne at least. Demon Souls is planetary, then Dark Souls is star level, and then Elden Ring is multi-solar system level and beyond. Maybe the next game will be multi-galaxy level, but what do I know? If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, as it lets me know to make some more stuff like this in the future. And as always, make sure to let me know how I was wrong in the comments down below. See ya!